Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Agency Life. Absolutely delighted today to be reaching all the way down to Johannesburg. We have Darren from Spitfire joining us today. Welcome, Darren.
Thanks, Clara. Pleasure to be here.
Darren, tell us a bit about your where you started Spitfire. What type of agency is it? You've had a very long history in advertising, but talk to me more about how it became to create Spitfire, please.
So yeah, it's been a long journey. I'm not sure too many people survive in advertising for as long as I did. So yeah, I come from a design background. So originally started out in design. But always focusing on how design improves the customer experience, how design helps companies grow. And Spitfire was really a spin-off of my original business because we were looking for ways to more effectively manage and report on social media. So as we got into the digital space, we were doing AdWords, and then we were going, well, we should do this Facebook thing. That's quite cool. But I was like, how do we measure this? How do we prove that what we're doing is actually going to work? And through that, we got into quite an analytical discussion. And I asked my media guys to do some research. And through that, we discovered HubSpot. We kept finding these really helpful and really relevant blog posts. And I was like, okay, cool. So HubSpot seems quite cool. I had a look at that. And then I was like, well, it's really expensive. So being a business owner and an entrepreneur, I said, well, let's go find our own way of doing it. And let's find a cheaper way. There's got to be a few free tools that we could use to do this. And really what we realized is that we weren't a tech business. We're marketers and we're salespeople.
Yeah.
And we wanted to help our clients to do better business and to sell more. And HubSpot really was a platform that was allowing us to do what we had been doing in face-to-face selling for years in a much more scalable way.
Right.
So despite my resistance, we ended up as a HubSpot partner within Penguin, which was the original business. And then we started to run into conflict situations where they were full service agencies servicing a client. They weren't getting digital right, but as a full service agency, we were competing with them, so the door would be shut.
Oh, wow.
So we said that we needed to be specialists and we needed to run that specialization under a separate brand. So Spitfire is really a sister agency to a full service agency focusing exclusively on inbound marketing, sales and service, growth and through lead generation and client acquisition and better service delivery. So really embracing the flywheel of HubSpot and the full growth set.
Very cool. How long ago was that Spitfire came into existence?
So we've just gone through our third year.
Amazing. Right.
And so we're into year 4, and we were with HubSpot for a year under the Penguin brand before we decided to split out and take it on its own. Essentially what happened is my partner, my 2RC in Penguin had really pushed me out of every job that I'd ever had there, and she was ready to take on the MD role.
Yeah.
And we promoted Veronica to MD, and I was really kicking around with not much to do, which is not a good place for an entrepreneur to be.
No.
So I went and looked and said, how do we do this a little bit better, a little bit differently? So we still work really closely with Penguin. We work with a number of other agencies as well. Their specialization is in potentially PR or paid media or creative. And they need help from a digital specialization point of view and an inbound point of view.
Incredible. And that decision to have it separate, how do you interact with each other now? Do you have, how do you hand over information or leads or introductions? What's the process you have for that?
So collaboration is absolutely essential. And what we always emphasize in the onboarding stage with any client is that it doesn't matter how good the agency is or how defined the goals are. If it's not a partnership between the client and agency, and if it's not mutually beneficial and mutually shared goals, it will be moderately successful or fail.
Got it.
If we bring together all of the people invested in the success and we align those goals, then everybody can be successful together.
Yeah.
So when we're working one-on-one directly with the client, we ensure that they understand that they need to be as invested in the process as we are.
Yeah.
So that we can be mutually successful. And the same is true if we're engaging with Penguin or any other agency. Because if there's a combative situation, so if we feel like we're eating each other's lunch, then it's not best for the client. And we'll advise the client accordingly. So if we can't work together, we would rather not engage than try and engage and end up in a turf war.
Got it. Yeah. Because I think a lot of agencies try to work together, but the lines get blurred. And then that's when the client loses, you know, while people are trying to figure out who does what. So do you own the relationship with the client, with the project manager, and then bring people in?
So it's different on different clients.
Right.
So we will own the relationship in some instances. And in other instances, the full service agency or the creative agency owns the primary relationship, but we don't white label. So we don't go in under your brand.
I see.
We come in as Spitfire, and if we're bringing someone else in, they would come in under their brand.
Right.
So we would not bring you in and go, oh, so you now work under the Spitfire umbrella.
Yeah.
And you must take on Spitfire branding. We want you to represent who you are and what your specialization is, not try and hide behind a screen of a brand. And I think that transparency up front and a clear clear scope and clear goals allows everybody to understand where they fit in.
Yeah.
I make it sound like it's a perfect world. It's certainly not.
No, work in progress.
It doesn't always transpire like that, you know, so we do end up in situations where sometimes we have to get around a table and go, hang on a sec, who's doing what? Why are you getting into my space? Or can you add value to my space? And that's what we always try to turn the conversation into. It's going, how do we together add more value rather than looking at cross purposes?
And I like that.
It's very collaborative.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this doesn't work.
Yeah, holding the customer in the center. It's really important, you know, to think. Sometimes you can, we should do this and that, but remembering what's the right thing to do for the client. It's so important. Like I used to work in HubSpot, so you got in really early there. Like in South Africa, the whole world of inbound and the amount of agencies that are, it's still a massive, big opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what type of customers do you work? Because you'll probably be able to do your own niche and things like that. Like what's a really great customer that you love working with, or industry or something like that?
So we work across industries, and really what defines a good fit customer for us is someone who's locally managed and driven.
Right.
So we do work with multinationals, but not if the direction is stipulated from a global level. It's typically not a good fit for us.
Right.
So, for example, a company like Gillette has a global brand. It's dictated to, and you will execute against the Gillette CI. Yes. Where if you're in India, Pakistan, Australia, it doesn't matter. If you see a Gillette commercial or a Gillette promotion or a website, it is absolutely on brand, and that brand is driven out of New York, I think. It was last time I checked. So we work a lot with Suzuki in South Africa. Now, Suzuki is a global brand, but their brand philosophy is slightly different. They say a brand is like a bride. Yes, a bride in Ireland and a bride in South Africa is the same thing, but they dress differently and they embrace different customs.
Got it.
And when a brand understands that it needs to be locally relevant, then they're a really good fit for us.
I see.
The other thing for me is that they are in a growth phase. So they are looking to grow their position in the market and to challenge the leader, not to defend their position. Because if they're in a defensive position, inbound is not a great fit for them. Inbound really works when you're looking out to go and do thought leadership, push the boundaries, think more proactively about how the industry can change. And that's not to say we don't want to be working with guys who are number one in their industry, but we want to be working with people who have a growth mindset. So we're number one now, we don't ever want to be number two. And to do that, we need to add these services. We want to grow our business. We want to increase market, the overall market.
Yeah.
So it's a growth mindset rather than a growth position.
I see. Yeah. I love that analogy of the bride. I think that's very, very true, because from everything would change. The type of wedding, the style of wedding, the size of wedding, the cost, the whole thing is extremely different. And that's really good. So local.
That was a great learning for me. So when Suzuki launched their new brand strategy, it was a pivotal point. So I've worked with Suzuki for 20 years on motorcycles, and we relaunched automotive into South Africa in 2008. And when they did that, they launched this new brand, the way of life. And that philosophy has stuck with me for a long time. I thought it was just so relevant. Especially, we live in a country where there's 11 official languages.
Wow. And
every language has its own culture. So within South Africa, you have a Zulu bride, a Xhosa bride, white South African English, white South African Afrikaans. You have so much diversity. You have Indian, you have Hindu, you have Muslim, you have all of this diversity, and we have to bring that to the brands that we represent. They have to understand how diverse the culture is in our environment, and be able to adapt their marketing to accommodate that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because American companies don't often understand the differences inside in a country, because America is one country with one language, and slight nuances in culture, between like Texas and New York, but they kind of understand each other. They would have seen each other on television, like the New Yorkers see Texas sees New York. It's not unheard of. But when it comes to outside of their own country, it can be very difficult to explain exactly what you've talked about there, the 11 different languages, because they go, it's one country, Yeah.
And I mean, they often will have people ask us, and it's not exclusive to America, so I was in the UK for a few years, and the person was like, oh, so you're from South Africa. So like, where is that in relation to Africa? And I was like, well, the southern tip piece. But people, so the difference between marketing in South Africa versus marketing in Botswana, which is on our border, is completely different. And if you get up to Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria, you're now talking French, Portuguese, you're speaking Swahili. There's so many different considerations. So Africa as a whole is incredibly diverse, and South Africa in its own right is super diverse. And I just want to go back to the language thing in America, because I'm sure Spanish will be the official language there soon, despite Mr. Trump's wishes.
That's so true, right? Yes, because I've noticed that on my trips going over, the amount of commercials that are dual language now. That's actually, you raise a very good point.
It's in California or in Spanish as well. So.
Yeah, I was in San Diego, and I honestly felt like I was across the border. There was so much Spanish, people speaking it, everyone around. You made a very good point. That's very interesting. Now, Darren, I don't get to talk to people who have run a business for 20 years. Never mind have a conversation to say that you have worked with one client for 20 years. What's the secret of being able to have and hold a client for so long?
Aside from working your ass off.
We presume the natural blood, sweat and tears of an entrepreneur is there. And what else?
So a lot of passion.
Yeah.
Passion for the brand. So I don't believe I can sell anything that I don't buy. So I personally own 4 Suzukis. My mother drives a Suzuki.
Right.
I think there's now 10 people in the block that I live in all drive Suzukis. So I eat, sleep, and live the brands that I represent. And that's what I try to inculcate in my team. So they take it very passionately and very personally. But we also are always looking for innovation. So we weren't originally, so if you look at the use cases for HubSpot, B2C automotive doesn't really feature. Always B2B, high consideration, long-term sale, thought leadership. And we were looking at it going, how do we compete in a market where we are a really new brand? We're struggling to break that through into that high consideration threshold. What can we do differently? What can we, where can we disrupt? I hate that word. Okay, where can we differentiate ourselves from the competitors? So Toyota has the lion's share.
Right.
Between Toyota, VW, and Ford, they own the lion's share of the South African market. And we went, well, all we have to do is shift a few people that are looking, that are considering that, and go, what if I put this on my shopping list? And if you look at it down to the individuals and how do they make their decisions, and how do we one by one influence those decisions so that they put us on the shopping list. And the Suzuki product really does stack up. You get a lot more than you expected when you get into one. So we've really taken time to invest and understand who they are as a brand, what they represent. And I think there's now only 2 people at Suzuki South Africa that have been involved with the brand for longer than I have.
Wow. That's a lot. That's something very, very accomplished.
And it's not, it's not without its challenges, right? So they ask a lot of us, and we ask a lot of them. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. But I think it's like any relationship. If you are honest with each other and you listen to understand rather than to respond, then you will have a successful relationship.
And a happy relationship as well, because you have which particular client was the Impact Award? Talk to us a bit about that, and maybe explain what it is for anyone who's not a HubSpotter.
So it was an award that we didn't know existed. It's the happiest customer or happiest customers award. So HubSpot awarded that to us at the end of 2018. It arrived, I got a notification by email, and I was like, well, we didn't enter this. What is this? How do we end up winning this award? And when we looked into it, it's essentially HubSpot take it based on your sales, retention, and usage performance. So are your customers sticking with HubSpot? Are they sticking with you? And are they using the technology and seeing growth in their organization? So it's a spectrum, it's across clients. It's not one specific client. It's across all of our clients. And we have the highest average retention rates and success rate for our clients across the EMEA region.
Incredible.
You can give me any award in the world. If the award says your customers are happy and successful,
right? And what a surprise, you didn't even know it was coming. So this is something they do on their side. They're investigating and doing the research. You didn't apply for it.
Well, we now know that it exists, so we're really hoping that we win it again. But we don't publish the criteria. Well, not that I've found.
Right. I haven't heard of that one, and I used to work there, so I haven't heard of that particular way. I know a lot of people applying for it and vying for it and selling for it, but I hadn't heard of that particular version, which I think has got a whole lot of kudos to it,
Different tiers, and we've won multiple impact awards. So we enter for website design and growth story and all of those. And yeah, we've won several of those, but everything else sort of pales in comparison when you go, well, across the board, your clients are pretty stoked.
Right.
And that for me is huge, for the business, for the people that work here, because they really do put their heart and soul into it. And we ask a lot of them, and they respond with amazing work.
So what do you feel has made your team? Is there a particular hiring process? Is it a particular values that you guys have? How come you have a team that is able to create those results? Because fundamentally they're working so hard, obviously, to ensure this happiness. Have you got a particular formula for actually hiring or training, or where do you find these magic rock stars?
So I have a fairly unique interview technique. I don't know if you've heard of the game 30 Seconds. It's a board game.
A board game? No, I haven't.
So there's a board game that is I mean, it's fairly popular here, certainly through my early adult years, but effectively you get a card. It's got 5 words or 5 describing sentences or words on the one side of the card. And you have to describe to the person sitting across the table from you what's on the card without using those words, and they have to guess the answer.
Do you use that in your technique?
So my first interview question is, have you heard of 30 Seconds? If they say yes, I hand them a card and I say, go.
And if not, you have to do a little description, because then you can say go. Wow, that's
and it's not so much about the results, it's how they respond to the challenge.
Yes.
Because we need people that are engaged.
Yes.
We need people that are going to go, wow, that's different. Like, how do I respond to this? And to be able to respond quickly and appropriately. And I've yet to have a hiring failure where I used the 30 seconds card at the first interview. It shows lateral thinking. It shows the ability to think under pressure.
Yes.
Because it's how they respond. So if someone can't actually get words out, they're not going to be successful in our role. If they've got a diverse general knowledge, they typically are very curious.
Right.
And my payoff line, so my signature on my email address is Stay Curious, and my investment company is called Stay Curious, because I think that's what drives us forward as marketers. If we keep going, well, we did that before, so it will work, we will fall behind as marketers. Absolutely. If we keep asking questions, we say, why did that work? Or why did it not work? Then we're going to get better at what we do. Yeah. So I want curiosity, I want lateral thinking, and I want the ability to think under pressure.
Yeah.
And if we tick those boxes, then we typically get good hires.
Amazing technique. And the ability, I love to see how people handle surprise. Mm-hmm. Or you can probably see people who can't handle that going, I wasn't expecting this. Mm-hmm. But and if you're working an agency, that's your whole life. Nobody ever comes into an agency and goes, that day was just like yesterday. It's like, it doesn't happen.
No recruitment coach has ever prepared someone for a 30 seconds question. When they walk in, they go, here's a card, and they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So within Penguin, there's a guy here who now runs the Suzuki account. His name's Neil. He was working as an assistant for a concert pianist when he came from the interview. He's now running the agency's biggest account 5 years down the road.
Wow.
But he nailed 30 seconds. He absolutely nailed it. And it works.
I love it. That is a fantastic one. Thank you for that. Yeah. One that we've done before, which it takes a little bit more to organize. And if you have a lot of people interviewing for roles, so say you might have 4 or 5 good candidates, you tell them that they're coming in for a long interview, and or a series of interviews. And when they arrive in, you actually say to them, we'd like you to create a campaign, come up with an idea, work as a team in a room. We're going to leave you here for 40 minutes and see what happens. So they have to do a group exercise.
That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
We've done the exercises, but we do it in isolation. So we do it, we give them a task to do, check their capabilities, but we've never done that as a group exercise. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so they can see, then they can go, who's the leader, who's the presenter, who wigs out, who has a bit of a, oh, what's this about? And you can do it over, like you could do it on, if it's 4 people, over 2.5 hours or something, because you'll say, you'll do the group exercise for 40 minutes, get somebody to present, and then you can do the half-hour sessions after that. So, and if it's in the after, like between 5 and 7, you're not eating into their current job, or there's loads of different ways to do it, but it works a treat because the element of surprise, you can see people who freak out, people are like, I wasn't expecting this, I have my questions, but you also see the presenter, the leaders, who's bringing the group together, who could be a team leader in the future. It's quite cool.
That's really cool. I like that.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad, because I love that 30-second one. You give me that, I'll take the other one. You, Darren, tell me about when I read this, because I'm afraid to read it out. I'm afraid to read it out. Tell me about your huge, big personal goal for South Africa.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big ask. And so it actually it was an idea that I came up with when I was at Inbound 2 years ago. And, you know, often I say to people, you know, we do marketing, it's not life and death. You know,
right, yeah. Very similar, yeah. No one's going to die.
Exactly, right. This campaign fails, no one dies. We get up tomorrow and we go, oops, didn't work, let's do it again.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a solo rock climber, you don't get a second turn. You know, you either get to the top or you die.
Yeah.
If you're a brain surgeon, you either save the person or you kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy whose name escapes me right now. I can't. But he started a project off the back of pure desperation. He was a nightclub promoter and got into a life of making lots and lots of money, taking lots and lots of drugs, drinking lots and lots of booze, and woke up one morning realizing that his life had very little purpose. And he effectively chucked everything in, sold everything he had, and volunteered to work on a medical boat, and ended up on a US medical boat off the coast of Somalia, in Africa. And he was working as a photographer and was taking pictures of these people. And as he spent time there, he realized that there were children drinking water out of drains, and with mud and sticks in it, and worse.
Yeah.
And that he went, well, he has some unique talents. He is able to raise money. He's able to get people to rally around him. And if he wants to use those talents to improve life, he was going to use it to bring clean drinking water to Africa. And I think it's called the Clean Water Project or something to that effect, but
right.
It's not really important because he's handling that project. But I went, well, what's my purpose? My purpose right now is to build Spitfire and to help the 20-odd people that work here to build careers and to impact on their families. And then I went, well, through Penguin, we created lots of jobs and we influenced lots of lives. And there's people that have gone on to work at big agencies in Europe. And one guy was running the Colgate account for Y&R in Paris.
Wow.
And we've had an impact on the world, but we've never really quantified that. But we have a crisis in this country and on this continent where people don't have opportunity. They don't have we don't have enough jobs. We don't have enough skills. And often corporate business is incentivized by profit, not by doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I made the commitment at Inbound that I was going to work out a way to create 1 million jobs for people in South Africa. So it's 2 years down, and I've kind of ticked off 200 roughly.
Yeah, great.
Roughly
yeah.
200. So it's a long way to go, but it's still a lofty dream, and I suppose it's not a lofty dream if you can achieve it in 2 years.
Correct.
But people often talk about education, and we've got to improve our education to be able to create jobs. But based on our history, we have this missing generation or two. We had this apartheid government that put in place the most unjust rules, and we served a very small portion of the population who gained great advantage, and we marginalized the majority of our population. And I was one of the people to benefit from that.
Yeah.
So privilege in South Africa is absolutely unequivocally there.
Yeah.
And people go, well, we must improve education, and that works for the kids that are in primary school maybe today, or the kids that have gone through school in post-apartheid South Africa. But the legacy education, the opportunities are limited because their parents weren't offered a true education,
right,
or an equal education or equal opportunity.
Yeah.
So the whole generation continues to start on the back foot.
Got it. Yeah.
And there's people that are coming through high school today, and simple things like, for any person in the first world, or certainly in the US or South Africa, the right to transport. So if you're in London, you have access to mobility. You can get around wherever you want. We have people that walk 10 kilometers to school every day. And then we go, jeepers, they don't concentrate in class. Well, I mean, how much would you concentrate if you had to walk 10 Ks to work?
When you've got to walk 10 Ks home.
Yeah, exactly. And you've been up since 2 o'clock in the morning. So my sons are at school with boys who are on scholarship. One guy leaves home at 3 o'clock in the morning from Vosloorus and travels into Jeppe.
Wow.
And then he has to go home again for 2 hours in a minibus taxi. There's no way he's getting an equal opportunity to my sons, who are taken to and fetched from school, given computers and the opportunity to learn. And that's not through a lack of effort from his mom.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
She just doesn't have the resources. And that's because she was disadvantaged.
Right.
So we have to try and repair that by creating opportunities for people further on in their journey. So yes, we must get education right. But we've got this gap between people that are currently being educated and people that were never educated.
Yes.
And that a lack of education doesn't diminish your lack of aspiration or your lack of ability.
Yeah.
So we need to create opportunities for people to show what they can do.
Yeah. So it's that bandwidth. Are we talking like they could be between 30 and 50 and they have children in school?
It's even younger than that. So it's 20 to 40.
Wow.
Because there's people that have gone through school whose parents weren't able to read it and write in English. So imagine if your children went to France on their own and had to learn in French what their peers are doing in their first language.
Got it. Right.
You're just it's not fair.
No.
Right? So we've got to fix that. And we can go, well, we've had democracy for 24 years or whatever it is now, and we should have corrected that. But you don't correct 40 years of wrong with 20 years of right.
No.
Yeah, and we have to acknowledge that, and we have to work really hard at it. And we need investment. We need people to go, I'm prepared to make slightly less profit.
Right.
To do the right thing.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to hire someone and train them.
Yeah.
And give them the opportunity to succeed or fail without judging them.
Yes.
At the first hurdle. Or if they fall at the first hurdle, give them the opportunity to get up and carry on.
Yeah. And without that proper education as well, there's so many things that can be more challenging, like studying, like absorbing new information, like timetables, that I guess stuff that we take for granted, things like uniforms and books and regime. You know, that's easy transferred into work, isn't it? You know, you're going, I have to be there at a certain time, I have to absorb information, I have to put it out in a certain way. There's a lot of the soft skills that need to be taught as well, not just
so
the
time for me is like, I'm a stickler for time.
Yeah.
I hate being late. I always, like, I want people to be on time, and I expect them to be on time, and I expect them to respect my time and my client's time.
Mm-hmm.
But when someone has to catch 3 taxis and walk 20 minutes to get to the office, you actually have to suck it up a little and go,
yeah,
20 minutes leeway is okay.
Yes. Yeah.
But just send me a WhatsApp or a text message to let me know.
Yeah.
And try not make it a habit. Yeah, so, and that doesn't mean we want to be lackadaisical in our discipline. It doesn't mean that we don't want to do the right job, but it does mean that we have to be more understanding of people's circumstances.
Yeah.
And the circumstances that people in South Africa live with are very different to the circumstances people live with in Dublin. You know, and
yeah,
you know, it's just different.
Yeah.
And we have to go, well, if we want to correct it. So if we want our economy to grow, we have to do what the Irish did 40 years ago and say, we're going to pick an industry and we're going to dominate that, right? We're going to make technology the thing.
Yeah.
Or we're going to talk about customer service as the thing, or tourism.
Yeah.
And we could probably do 5.
You could easily do 5. You're so much bigger than us. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Ireland 40 years ago was not a great place to be.
No,
It's a wonderful place
less than that, even. Yeah, even less than that. Well, it was started with some manufacturing. We invited manufacturing companies to come here, and there was tax breaks for that. Some computer hardware people, and then somebody spotted the software trend, hence Google and LinkedIn and Twitter.
I think the Google and the LinkedIn and the Facebooks all followed the Intel, because Intel moved there.
That's right. Yeah.
Intel's a big machine, and if Intel, so Amazon have built a call center in Cape Town, and we've got a tech hub in Cape Town. People are innovative and creative, and they're coming up with all sorts of really cool stuff. And we need to actually realize that we do have a place on the world stage, and we need to create those opportunities for South Africans to flourish in South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been working with South African companies for a very long time, and you've got some very unique things that the rest of the world don't have, which is the very short time difference and the very high standard, the fact that you speak English and the high standard, but the rest of the world can't absorb if you're just picking the best of the best people. So I think what I'm hearing as advice from you for local companies is, of course you want the best person for the role, but also look outside to go, who else can I give a hand up? How can I help someone who perhaps doesn't have even the school, the marketing, or the something education that you are looking for, and how could you get them in and get them on the ladder?
Yeah, and look for attitude. Hire for attitude, hire for aptitude, and you can train the rest.
That's right.
We actually find that not hiring marketers is our best decision ever.
Really?
Because people that come out of traditional agency go, but that's not how we do it in a traditional agency. And we go, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
So teachers are a really good hire for us.
Excellent. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. In what capacity?
So marketing, so strategists, they're really good with time management. They are good at communicating. They handle people well. They can communicate, and clearly explain a concept to a client in a manageable way.
Yeah.
Because they've learned how to explain. You have to be able to explain things in 2 or 3 different ways when you're a teacher.
Right.
You can't just explain maths one way and go, that's the only way.
Goodbye.
You've got to figure out a way to get this person to get the concept.
Yeah.
The other, so journalists, people that have worked in writing, so not just commercial writing, but in proper, when I say proper, news journalism.
Yes, both sides of the story. Yeah, researching.
And then people that, so my strategic director happens to also be my wife, and my partner in the business. She's an occupational therapist by training, and lectured at Wits University for 15 years, and was the reason that we went down the inbound route, because she's an academic and a researcher by profession. And I went, I need someone that can really do this research and figure out for me what the right way to go is. She took us down the inbound road, and then I sold it and went, you better figure out how to deliver it now.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I sold the thing. Can you now execute it first? Oh, if I've heard that once, I've heard it 400 times. What's it like working with your partner and wife in the business? How do you manage the relationship? Do you have a way of figuring out when to stop working, when to be in a relationship again?
Yeah, we try really hard. But we're both passionate about what we do. So we do take work home.
Yeah.
And we made the call because we were like, okay, no work at home. And then we'd end up getting frustrated because we were like, if you had a bad day at work and you got home to your husband or partner or whoever, and you would want to go, this really, like, I had a pretty crappy day.
Yeah.
Or a wonderful day. Or
it's lovely.
So what we've tried to do is go, well, let's talk about the operational, like the hard operational stuff at work.
Right.
And let's talk about the exciting creative stuff at home.
Nice.
Let's talk about the opportunities. Let's talk about, I saw, like, we ran into this roadblock. How do you think we could overcome it creatively, rather than, well, our HR policies need to be updated. What are we going to do about maternity leave? Or then stay at the office.
Or you can talk about that at home.
Let's talk about the creative, fun stuff.
Yeah.
The opportunities at home. Let's talk about the mundane HR operational, functional stuff at the office.
I love that. That's a really good way to clear, because I work with, I don't know what it is, but loads, and I know loads of agency couples. It is such a phenomenon. Like, it's more than any other industry I think I've ever been a part of. It's quite fascinating, and everyone's had their own different ways of dividing the line, being husband and wife, being in a relationship and being in a partnership together. So I really love that tip. I think that's really great. Now, Darren, you've had, we've talked about the highs, right? We've talked about the awards and the results and the 20-year clients, and that is fantastic. But as you and I know, running an agency is a big roller coaster, and there's lots of downs that come along with that. Part of why I created Agency Life is because agency owners spend so much time on their own. When something goes wrong, they think they're the only person that ever did that, and they feel that they go in a bit of a dark hole. So talk to me about one of the mistakes, and I know we probably could make a whole show about mistakes if we're brutally honest, right? It could be a whole show for every agency owner. But one that when I read this that you sent in, I feel an agency owner might come across this a lot, is about the entrepreneur that you worked with who kept chasing shiny objects.
Yeah. So I often refer to fishing when I talk about salespeople, and if you fish for game fish, whether it's trout or in the sea, they chase the shiny thing, and they chase it hard, and the next shiny thing that comes past them, they chase equally hard, because they do that to survive. And we built a really successful business. We went from 4 people to 110 people at its max. We didn't lose a pitch. Like if there was an opportunity on the table and we got in front of the client, we won it. Mike was an incredible sales guy, and I was delivering. So I was kind of the pilot fish cleaning up. So he would go out and win it, and I would deliver it, and it was a great combination. And we had a couple of other partners in the business, and I slowly grew into a role where I eventually took on the MD role. So I was creative director, and then I took on the MD, and that freed up a lot of Mike's time to not be daily operational in the business. And he came across an opportunity. He went over to Australia. He identified a business who he thought would be a great fit for South Africa, and came back and sold us all on the idea. He did what he did best. He sold us a concept that he believed in, and truly it wasn't a bad idea, right? It's a very successful business. It was a franchise opportunity. He had secured the local agency for it, or the local, the rights to deploy it in South Africa.
Right.
And we said, right, let's go for it. Let's go diversify. Let's get out of agency life. Well, not out of it completely. Let's open our horizons and look for other opportunities.
So it wasn't something that sat inside. It wasn't PPC or white label Facebook ads. It was something outside of the agency world.
It was a fast food franchise, healthy fast food franchise.
Wow.
So marketing was critical to the overall success of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we approached it in a very non-strategic way. And we made the mistake of letting our creative guy, our rainmaker, take the reins and try run this thing like an entrepreneur, not like a project.
Got it.
So we didn't apply our own project planning methodology to our own subsidiary business. We just let it run, and it ran amok, and it cost us an absolute fortune. And when I say, not an absolute, it cost us a lot. In our world, it was an absolute fortune. It was, certainly a lot more money than I would have liked to just throw away. Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot of lessons from it. And one was like, if you're going to diversify, make damn sure you understand the business you're going into.
Yeah.
Don't take on something unless you're going to be fully involved in its success.
Right.
I went to a talk a while ago, many years ago, by the CEO of Pick n Pay, which is a big supermarket chain in South Africa. Uh-huh. And they asked him, what other shares do you invest in? And he said, I invest in Pick n Pay. And they said, but surely you have, he says, I don't understand any other business.
Right, yeah.
I invest in what I understand. And I wish I'd heard that 3 years earlier, because I understand nothing about FMCG. I understand nothing about fast food. And I certainly don't understand anything about making smoothies. And how to run a successful franchise in shopping malls. It's not the area of marketing or sales I've ever been close to. And it came with a very glossy package. It looked very attractive, and it looked like easy money. And there is no such thing.
No.
In my world, you work hard for it. And you will earn it. But if it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
It probably is. And different there. It wasn't like a stranger came in to tell you about this opportunity. It's someone that you've worked with, that you'd successfully worked with. That is
someone that grew up with him. We best friends.
Well.
And it wasn't like he embezzled money away from me.
God, no. These things happen though. Yeah, because it was the perfect storm, right?
We had built a successful business. We were young and we were taking over the world.
Right.
And we got kicked in the in the net. It's good and
Yeah.
proper.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's great advice, and this is what happens when you're in a successful business. You are going to get opportunities till the cows come home, right? You must know, you probably get approached once a week, someone asking you for an amazing, can I talk to you about this amazing opportunity? Because success attracts success. It attracts success, and it is good for agency owners to remind themselves, first of all, what's your vision? Where are you going? If new opportunities are going to present themselves, but if they don't fit in with where you're ultimately going, they can distract. God love that Pick and Pay guy. You were a few years before and on the timing meeting him. We're kind of coming towards the end of this. We've been talking for a long time, Darren, but a couple of things that I'd love to share that you have a tip. I always ask agency owners, what are their tips for managing this bit of a successful business, and how do you keep sane? And you've got a really interesting one that I haven't heard before. You love to doodle.
I do. Yeah, I'm a compulsive doodler. So person always says that if I'm not drawing in a meeting, I'm not listening or engaged.
Oh, have you been doodling while we've been here? I haven't noticed.
I haven't. No,
Oh.
Sitting looking down while on a podcast is probably not the best call.
Oh, thank you. Well, yes, anyone who's only audio, I actually do video as well, because I throw it up on YouTube and grab a few more views over there as well. So, well, the next, I must have a look and see if do you post any doodles online or share them with anyone?
I do. I'll share a link with you.
Excellent. Yeah, we can include it in the show notes just so people can see what you talk about. I think, yes, we're so used to typing, using our phones. I posted this the other day. I still love writing down a list or what I want to do, or just make some notes or draw some mind maps and just get that connection going. I haven't totally thrown away the notebooks just yet. I definitely agree with that for you.
Chalkboard behind you would be...
Yeah, there's a classic example, and there's another one in front of me as well. There's always a bit of doodling going on. And then finally, today, Darren, you've got so much experience, but can you imagine that there's somebody out there right now sitting maybe with their wife about to make the decision to start an agency, or they're just starting on their own, or they're starting with their business partner? What kind of, you've got some good advice to share with them about building an agency using a local animal as an example?
Advice to an agency, to someone starting an agency.
So I'll prompt you. You say, build your agency like you'd eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, so I mean, and I suppose it's like most things, right? Take it one step at a time. If you're going to eat an elephant, do it one bite at a time. You're going to sit there for a while, but you will eventually complete it. Yeah. Don't take on too much up front, but don't take on too little either. So I found a lot of agencies. So we run the HubSpot user group in Johannesburg, and I've had a number of people ask me, so what do we do to get going? And I'm like, sell your first deal, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so often people wait until it's perfect before they go to market.
Right. Yeah.
And it will never be perfect, right? No. So know when it's good enough. And the only way you can prove it is to get it in the market.
That's right.
So when I sold my first inbound deal, Alison had literally presented me the final project plan a week before. And I was sitting in a creative session with a client, and he was not loving it. He was like, I'm not so sure. We've kind of done this before. He was asking all those, I'm searching for a better answer.
Right.
I closed the computer. I said, look, Roland, we've been thinking about doing this. This is what's involved. We don't know if it'll work or not, but I think it'll work for your business. And if you're prepared to commit, we will give you our heart and soul to make it work.
Wow.
And he said, how much is it going to cost? I said, about this much. He said, done, let's go.
Yeah.
And we we delivered really, really good work for them, and we learned. They paid our school fees, and I really appreciate the fact that he took that leap of faith with us.
Yeah.
And we didn't hide the fact that we were learning. We were absolutely clear to him and said, we are, so I guess what I'm saying is be transparent with the client. So there are plenty of proof cases from around the world that this works. We will put our stamp on it, but we will use the methodology that's been proven globally to be successful.
Yeah.
So take a leap with us, and then give them something in return for that, right? Over deliver.
Yeah. Give them something extra. And at the end of the day, they're the kind of clients that you want long-term partners. You're going to say you want a partnership, you're going to give, you're going to take, you're going to work together. Darren, look, this has been fantastic. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. And I just want to put the shout out there. If there's anything that when you're listening to this, I certainly will be very happy to help a small contribution of helping 1 million jobs in South Africa. And if anyone is on and listening to this and has any ideas, let's reach out and let's help Darren achieve his goals. Because if you don't have a big ass, hairy dream, you may as well stay in bed. And I love it. Thank you so much, Darren. Thank you everyone for listening. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It was great fun.